Hello, hello! Welcome back to online learning. Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back to online learning week 5. Congratulations on making it to week 5. Today is Monday, April 27th, 2020. Remember that on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays you have library, and always be sure to check on Ms. Umansor for your art activities. So, this week, boys and girls, we are talking about our last type of vertebrae. So, for our objective today, we are identifying the characteristics of amphibians. Everybody say it with me. Amphibians, okay? So you can see the word right here. It's spelled a little bit different than what we're used to, but if we sound it out together, remember that PH makes the F sound. Amphibians. Okay, so since we're talking about science, please remember to log on to Imagine Math. And later on this week, we're going to be sharing a little bit more about the challenge details that we talked about during our Zoom meeting. For those of you who weren't able to join us on Zoom last week, Ms. Carranza and I are preparing a little prizes or activities that we can do to thank you for taking time to log on to Imagine Math, how we have been asking you, and Imagine Literacy, so you can take that time to continue building your skills. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to be reading about amphibians. The only thing is that the words, unfortunately, will not be in Spanish, so just try following along with the pictures. El día de hoy vamos a leer nuestro libro de anfibios. Desafortunadamente, este libro no viene con las palabras en español. Intenté buscar uno que lo tuviera, pero no lo tenían. Entonces, por favor, traten de seguir al paso con las fotos y con lo que estoy diciendo. All right, so today we're reading about amphibians. Amphibians have soft, moist skin. Soft. Most amphibians spend part of their lives in water. And we know what water is. Agua. And part on land. Amphibians hatch from eggs laid in water or wet places. They change as they grow into adults. So look how it's changing. Está cambiando. Some amphibians have tails. Others lose their tails as they grow up. Amphibians have many enemies. What's an enemy? Think of when you've heard that word, enemy. O en español, un enemigo. ¿Qué significa tener un enemigo? Alguien que no te quiere, somebody that is not very happy with you, right? Some are camouflaged for protection. Others are protected by poison glands on their skin. Amphibians bury themselves and sleep through very cold or very hot weather. So they don't really like when it's very cold, very hot, or when it's very cold. So they'd rather just sleep. Some amphibians have voices to call each other. Most amphibians eat insects. Some may eat snakes, worms, and other small animals. It is important to protect amphibians and the places where they live. Alrighty, so that was just a little bit about amphibians. Maybe you were able to identify some of the animals that we saw. And the most common one that we know to be an amphibian is actually the frog, right? Or the toads. So I'm going to move myself up here so we can go through our characteristics. So one of the very first things that they talked about is that they lay eggs. Like many of the animals that we've talked about, birds, fish, they lay eggs. So one of the differences between the other animals is that their eggs feel like jelly. Okay, so it's not like hard-shelled eggs like the reptiles also who lay eggs. Their eggs feel and look like jelly. Number 2 says amphibians go through metamorphosis. Now that's a really, really, really big word that really just means change. So in the book, we saw how they start changing from being little tiny eggs and they start growing their tails, they start growing their facial features, they start growing legs, and that's when you start seeing how it looks like the adults, the frogs. Number 3 says amphibians have permeable skin. So permeable just means that their oil, everything from their body comes out through their skin. So one of the things that we saw is that some of them are poisonous. And like the snakes that we talked about, or the reptiles, some could also be poisonous. However, for a snake to share or to give off its poison, it has to bite you. So like venom, right? So we've heard of when you get bit by a snake or by a spider, that can be poisonous. But they have to put it in you. Frogs or amphibians, it can just come out of their skin. And we saw that in the picture. He was just standing there, and whatever was coming out of him was poisonous. Number 4 says amphibians are cold-blooded. And that's kind of what I was thinking about when they said that they don't really like the really, really cold weather or the really hot weather. So they'd rather dig themselves in underground to make sure that they don't have to suffer through that because they are cold-blooded. And remember that cold-blooded animals can't really control their temperature. It just depends on what their environment is like. And finally, number 5, amphibians are vertebrates. So we know that that means that they have a back spine that helps them keep their body up. All right, and now we're going to move on to our favorite activity of the week. I love doing this, and I love seeing the way you guys get creative. Not everybody does this exact picture, and that is absolutely fine with me. I like to see the way that you take the pictures that you look at the book, or when you're reading the book and you think, oh, okay, like that's also a reptile. I had a lot of people last week who, instead of drawing the lizard, decided to draw a snake or decided to draw a turtle because that was their favorite reptile, and that is absolutely fine with me. So please remember, we're going to set up our page with our name, the date, and 3 areas for our important details. Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our drawing of the amphibian. So we're going to go ahead and start off with an egg shape. And this was kind of a funky way to do it, and I really like that. Oh, okay. So now we have the smile, and we're going in for the legs. So I'm going to go ahead and pause that as I catch up, and you can use this time to catch up as well. And this really reminds me of our last Zoom meeting for those of you who were able to join us. And those who weren't, I really, really encourage you to take the time to join us during our Zoom meetings. We had a really, really fun time last week. So now we have the legs going. And the little feet. Leg número 2. Foot número 2. Now we're going to draw 2 circles for the eyes. And 2 dark circles inside for the eyeballs. And we're going to finish it off with 2 little nostrils for the nose. And we have a frog. All right, so mine's a little funky, but that's okay. So I have my frog here. And remember that you have the opportunity to color it as you like, be creative, draw a background, whatever you need to remind you what an amphibian is and the 3 important things about them. So let's just go over our activity. So on the same page where we just drew, and we've done this for the past couple of weeks, so you should be used to it, we're going to write 3 important characteristics that we talked about during the lesson. Now, something that I've noticed that a lot of people do is grab stuff from the book. So if you've heard something in the book that maybe wasn't covered in our chart, you can absolutely go back to the book, write down what it said from the book that I read, and that is perfectly fine with me. It just helps me know that you are really enjoying the book and you are really enjoying the time that we spend talking about these different types of animals. So, with that being said, thank you so much, boys and girls, for being back here for another week. We appreciate all of your hard work, and just know that Ms. Carranza and I talk about you every single day. We are so proud of everything that you are doing. You guys have grown so much since we started all of this, and we can see that you are dedicated to your education and to continue learning. We love you so much, and we will see you tomorrow. Nos vemos mañana.